Get a load of this bullshit.
What is the problem with that? That is a stim. How is that not a... That's the finger thingy. Everyone does it. No? How is that bullshit? How?
Yeah.
Tell us about stimming, will
I'm
you?
not even gonna say anything. I'll just play the next clip.
It's gonna be alright.
This reminds me of like kids in middle school who would pretend to be like retarded and start flailing their hands making fun.
There's just nothing to say. I don't I don't know what to say. Yes, we stim. Do you just not think that is a real stim that people do? A lot of people do it. Did they just have a vendetta against this particular person? I think they probably do. I feel like puking. Hello and welcome to the dark side of autism. Today we're going to be having a look at a video from Bungalow. TikToker fakes autism for views. It's gonna be one of those ones. Let's get into it. I'm gonna skip this bit because it's a little bit. They've got a very triggering video at the start.
TikTokers faking autism. It's a weird phenomenon that's come up in the last few years, akin to people in like 2012 who would pretend to have depression on Tumblr, and it's only evolved since then. Honestly, it kind of pisses me off. What's up?
So we're starting off with a very strong statement. Oh, it's gonna be one of those ones.
You goobers, today's topic is obviously going to be the one, the only, faking autism. Now, before I start the video, I gotta talk about something real quick. If you don't care, then skip ahead to this timestamp. So,
Yeah.
I'll be having...
Yeah, let's just skip ahead a little bit. There we go.
I see a lot of those TikTok cringe compilations of people faking disorders and such, but I haven't seen a video made on this person exactly. I'm not gonna say their name because I don't want them to receive harassment, even though they have a pretty big following, so I'm just gonna call this person Discount Rebecca Sugar.
I want to remind people, especially educators and creators, that not only do you need to give trigger warnings, but it is not enough to say that there's going to be sensitive or graphic content. You must say exactly what that content is so people can plan accordingly.
So true. Okay, trigger warning, cringe. Before I get into it, I want to play this video first just to give you guys a little taste of what's to come. Prepare yourself.
Does anybody know who this person is? I think I've seen them before, but I'm not sure exactly who it is. I like her mushroom shirt. Yeah, me too. Yeah, this is gonna be an interesting one.
So, to clarify, this person worked with people who are on the spectrum who are actually diagnosed. And after a while of learning about autism, the typical behaviors of actually autistic people, they suddenly go on the internet and instantly believe strangers and discard all of their knowledge. Yeah, instead of listening to doctors and actual autistic people, I'm gonna go on TikTok and listen to whatever they pull out of their holes so I can label myself as it too and be a part of the special little fun club. It's not like anyone on the internet would lie.
Just lie? You really think someone would do that? Just
Yeah, I mean, it's similar veins of like logic that we've seen in a lot of these detractor videos. You know, the whole glorification of the medical system as being this like all-seeing eye, and that everyone's making impulsive decisions after going onto social media and like researching a bit about autism and then, you know, saying that they are. There's a long process. I don't think a lot of people understand. Like, you know, autism education, it takes a while. There's a lot to know. There's a lot of nuances. There's a lot of like self-discovery to be involved with. No, I mean, obviously, like, it's assuming bad intentions with this, or assuming that the person is like not really thinking about it too much, or, you know, the other common one. I think that they mentioned that they're doing so for views and attention and to be part of a special club. It's not really a special club like that people trying to get in. It's like it's an alternate reality where everyone around us is similar to us, like similar to us being, you know, autistic, and that community's formed and grown, and more people have found it. That is the reason why it's a big thing, because, you know, the autism rates, I mean, people discuss them all the time, but although it's a minority of the population, you know, even if it's, well, let's say like 3%, that's a lot of people, you know. Nobody's trying to be part of the special club. It's finding refuge from the rest of society, just a little bit online, I think, which is important because most people don't understand us, you know. I think that's important. It's not just like trying to think you're special and individual. Usually it's something that's been ignited from something bad that's happened in your life. Like you hit a roadblock, or you have a burnout, or you have a meltdown, and you're like, well, what actually is this? And you decide to do like some personal digging, because you know that you can't just go to a doctor and say, oh, I'm just freaking out. Like they're not gonna say, oh, have you considered that you're autistic? No, you've got to research it yourself. You gotta understand, you gotta collect evidence, then you go to a doctor and you talk about it. Doctors are not all-seeing creatures that just can immediately pick up on any difference in human beings. A lot of the legwork, especially if you're in a general healthcare system, has to be done by you, you know. It's just the truth. And whether you decide to be self-identified and you just don't want to go get a diagnosis, that's cool. There's a lot of people, they like to stay educated. They find a lot of the advice that people give within the community to be very helpful. Then what's the problem with that? Other people, they decide to go on and get a diagnosis, and the chances of adult diagnosis tend to be quite high because there is a lot of information out there, and that's why it's so high. Because people do a lot of digging into it. They do learn a lot. They do understand, and they sort of look at both the scientific sort of medical side of things, but they also listen to experiences of other autistic people, whether they are late diagnosed or early diagnosed like myself. Really depends on the person. But I mean, I'm trying to explain, I'm trying to give some commentary in response to this, but it's pretty much stuff that we've heard a lot before. Typical.
Just go on the internet and tell lies?
Sorry, Buster, but they do, have, and will continue to lie. So, along with not even being diagnosed, they are now quote-unquote educating other people about autism. So, basically, they are now continuing to spread lies about a developmental disorder so they can continue to get clicks for points. Honestly, I don't care if somebody speculates, but if you're going around without even a true diagnosis and trying to educate people about something that you most likely don't even have, something about that is honestly just pretty fucked up to me. I don't think they're even doing this on purpose either. I genuinely think they're so delusional and probably on the internet so much that they actually think this and bring it on to themselves. Not only that, but in each video you will notice in every single video they have headphones on as if it's a costume. Autistic people do have sensory issues, trust me, I know, but autism is not a costume. It's not a club to be a part of, and it's—
Hey, like if I wanted to wear headphones all the time, I would. Like, I've got my earbuds in now, and I do so in pretty much all of my videos because when I speak, my voice is too overstimulating for me, and so I need something to like dull the sound of my voice so I can speak at like a audible level, because I'm a very quiet speaker in reality because of that fact. I think it's definitely important to be transparent when you're talking about autism. Like, I think that there is a difference between sort of telling people about your experiences, like the lived experience angle, and giving people medical information on autism. I think is a very different thing. Like, they're sort of conflating people talking about their experiences as medical information, when it's really not. Like, there is a difference between the two. Sure, some experiences aren't really going to apply to autistic people. So some do. Some apply to everybody, that's for sure. But I mean, if you look at it in the grand scheme of things, it tends to be, you know, information that you can see like pretty much everywhere, like talking about masking, or infantilization or things of that nature. It's not really something that's part of the diagnosis profile, but it is something that we can experience. So it's just trying to separate out what are traits, what is the medical terminology and the medical traits and signs, and what is the downstream effects of them. Because the downstream effects is the lived experience, basically. And some of the stuff which is diagnosed psychologically is incredibly subjective and based on current norms, culture, things of that nature. I've never known what to say when I see this kind of thing. I'm dumbfounded. Yeah. Wow, that's ignorant. Yeah, I know.
And it's not something you're supposed to want or even celebrate. You should honestly be proud of who you actually are and not fake something you aren't. Something these people never consider when faking a condition is that a condition can never go away. It sticks with you for life, and I guarantee you this person will not be acting like this 40 years.
I mean, just nitpicking a little bit. It really depends on what condition you're talking about, you know. There's lots of conditions that can be just prop up and then go away. But no, neurodevelopmentally, it doesn't. You're born autistic.
30 years from now, hell, even 10 years from now, I'm willing to bet they won't. Maybe you are autistic and you're just really gullible. Off-topic question, you guys ever get nervous about the doctors? You ever get anxious? Bring maybe even a comfort item? Maybe even your earbuds? Sorry, you're not normal. It's the tism.
As an autistic adult, going to the doctor is anxiety-inducing for me. But here are some steps I took to help ease my anxiety.
Teehee, my legs are shaking, they're bouncing, look how quirky I am. Ugh.
I wore my headphones for noise canceling and
Does this person, like, at this point, I just have to think, this person just has so much inbuilt hatred for, like, the autistic community. I don't understand where it comes from. Is it just like... It's just like stereotypes like in their head about I just don't know. Do they just not like anybody? Do they just have something to say about anybody? Is it just autistic people? Like that's quite a thing for a lot of autistic people, isn't it? Doctors. It's the smell, it's the noises, it's the overhead lights, it's the in-person communication with someone that you've never met before, potentially going to do a procedure on you. Like there's a lot of aspects there which can be a lot more intense for autistic people, but that's not saying that people who aren't autistic can find hospitals and doctors hard. I think that's fair. Like, it's not saying that this is the requirement for you to be autistic. You need to have all of these things. This is saying this autistic person has gone to the doctors and this is how they've coped with it. That's basically what the video is. God damn it.
and for pressure. I used a fidget toy, I brought a comfort item, and I brought a pre-written note of my medical concerns so I didn't have to talk as much.
We want to bet it's just a
Good
5-page essay about begging for a diagnosis. All jokes aside, this is literally normal and has nothing to do with autism. This all sounds like you're either self-aware, normal, or just obsessing over things that people that do have this struggle with. When it comes to autism, what I've noticed is that no one ever wants to struggle with things like a monotone voice, having a higher rate of chronic illnesses, or being very low functioning, or struggling with learning disabilities, and lacking behind your peers. From what I see, many people who will fake it on the internet tend to be socially awkward teenagers or early adults. You know, the same demographic that is typically on TikTok. The next two videos are going to be proof of
Could it not just be that the people who are on TikTok are of just that demographic and there are autistic people within that demographic? Like, there's so many other places other than TikTok where people talk about autism, like YouTube being one of them. Yeah, Mike pointed out being very low functioning. Yeah. I mean, it's just coming out with just all of the the stigmas and stereotypes and points that is just so common for us to hear that it's not even like a nuanced take at all. They're literally just compiling every single all the stuff that we hear commonly from people into one video and thinking that it's revolutionary. This you really need to hear about this, guys. No. Look, there are people online who are ASD1. They have relatively low support needs. who create content. There are also other people who may have ASD 2 and 3, perhaps those with relatively quite high support needs who do have some type of media exposure depending on what kind of platform you're looking at. I know some particular speakers who were, when it was a thing, were diagnosed with classic autism, and they are an exceptional public speaker, and it's really great to sort of hear how their inner mind works. And they're an amazing speaker anyway. They're called Ruth. I can't remember the last name. But I mean that there's a breadth of content. And like, obviously, if you're going to go on TikTok, you're going to find generally people who are a bit younger. It just makes sense, doesn't it? Even if they are faking, they still don't want to be bullied. They probably need support for something. Exactly. Like, I mean, there is generally just no need for this type of rhetoric because, as you said, like, the people who generally do fake stuff tend to have a lot going on that they need support for. And so you're just bullying them, making them feel awful. You know, and on the other side, I don't think this person really understands, like, how diverse the spectrum is. They don't understand, like, how different a person can be, from people within the spectrum could be from each other. Thomas, weird request. May I see the print on your shirt? Yes. Oh, joyous day. Joyous day. You get the Elgato. God damn it. It's done this before. It's never done this before. Why is it doing this now? I just need to let it cool off a little bit. FaceTime. There we go. Doesn't that look brilliant? God damn it. It looks awful. Okay, let's continue with this mess of a video.
Proof of this girl's stimming, so before I begin, I'm gonna describe it for you with little charts. Typically, it's a repeated movement, often uncontrollable, and usually not something people want to do, and they feel pretty compulsed to do it. It comes in many types of ways, but get a load of this bullshit.
What is the problem with that? That is a stim. How is that not allowed? That's the finger thingy. Everyone does it. No? How is that bullshit? How?
Yeah.
Tell us about stimming.
I'm not even gonna say anything. I'll just play the next clip.
I'm saying it's gonna be alright. 'Cause the player's gonna play, and the haters gonna hate. I'm just gonna shake.
Bro, what? Nah, man. This reminds me of, like, kids in middle school who would pretend to be, like, retarded and start flailing their hands, making fun.
There's just nothing to say. I don't know what to say. Yes, we stim. Do you just not think that is a real stim that people do? A lot of people do it. Did they just have a vendetta against this particular person? I think they probably do. I feel like puking. Where are the comments? Oh yeah, there we go. These kind of people are afraid to read. Okay, I see.
Fun of, like, autistic people? Like, what the fuck? So, mind you, this person who claims to be so sensitive to so many different noises has the balls to post a video of them without headphones or any noise protection at a concert, dancing as stimming and flailing their hands. This is unbelievable. You don't stim to the beat of music, you don't dance as a stim, it's a short repeated movement, and even a phrase like a vocal stim exists, but this is just pathetic. Concerts are so loud, and not just loud, but it literally, like, it vibrates. It's like a sensory overload for even, like, the average person. Imagine you're at one of the large...
I mean, they've just seen, like, a short clip. They've seen a short clip of them at a concert. Like, when I've been to concerts, usually, granted, I do have some kind of noise protection, but it really depends. Some concerts are quite loud and boomy, you know? They seem to be quite a way away from that. Like, they're not at the front, that's for sure. They're not next to the sound system. Who's to say that they don't enjoy it for about half an hour and then go outside and regulate and then come back and enjoy it again? Do you know what I mean? My stimming is quite a bad habit. I need to stop one day. You do not need to stop stimming. Well, I mean, if it's like a harmful stim where you're, like, injuring yourself, I would say try and replace it with something, but no. Stimming is an important tool in our toolkit for regulation. If you get rid of that, brings a whole host of different issues. And generally you want to try and find some that you can do and you can feel comfortable doing in public as well. Really depends on the person, of course. But this is the shirt that you wanted to see. Life was okay. I love the vibrations. Yeah, I mean, that's not even to speak about the complexities of what autistic sensory experiences can be like. It really depends on the nature of it. You know, our sensory systems, although displayed as like visual and auditory and very easily sort of placed out like that, it can kind of give people the impression that it's that simplistic. But there are so many neurons involved in everything. Well, I mean, everything in our brain, but as you know, the sensory world is a large component of that. You know, to say that because you don't like the noise of, you know, ambient noise of sort of walking around in public, or the sound of an air conditioner, and want to sort of put some headphones on, does not mean that you won't enjoy music that you like. Granted, might be a bit overstimulating if you're hypersensitive, but that's what brakes are for. That's what noise reduction is for. And I would imagine that if they were at a concert, they would be wearing some loops. They would be wearing some earbuds. I don't know if you can see in the video. Let's have a look. Okay. I do have a habit of just like skipping past all the important stuff. Yeah, you can't even see their ears. What are you talking about?
Autistic people? Like, what the fuck? So, mind you, this person who claims to be so sensitive to so many different noises has the balls to post a video of them without headphones or any noise protection at a concert, dancing as stimming and flailing their hands. This is unbelievable. You don't
Some people do it for joy.
Beat of music. You don't dance as a stim. It's a short repeated movement, and even a phrase like a vocal stim exists, but this is just pathetic.
How is that not a short
Concerts
repeated
are so
movement?
loud, and not just loud, but it literally like it vibrates. It's like a sensory overload for even like the average person. Imagine you're at one of the largest concerts this year in America, and some random girl comes up to you and asks you to film her. You're like, sure, all good, G. This bitch starts flailing like some fish that escaped the clutches of a starving Irish family during the 1800s. Insane. Speaking of fake stimming, look at this. Oh my god, wow, you like an expensive and popular brand of shoes and got a second pair and you do a little...
I'm just convinced this person has a vendetta against whoever this is. Yeah, when you're autistic and you get a new pair of the only type of shoes you'll wear. Look, like, people have their own personality. This person seems to be very bubbly and such, and it would be unquestioned if there was no autism in this. You know, this is just like a TikTok video.
Little leg kick to show it off. Wow. You are so cool. I hope you feel real proud of this. These next two videos are they're just awful.
Autistic advocacy and LGBTQ plus advocacy must go hand in hand. But this is not widely understood. Autistic people are often infantilized and
oh, really?
Yeah.
not included in conversations about attraction and identity. Many pride events are inaccessible for autistic people.
Didn't seem to stop you.
People's LGBTQ plus identities can be invalidated due to their autism. Similarly, people sometimes use their autism as an excuse for bigotry towards LGBTQ plus people. A lot of autistic people don't use inclusive language when discussing autism in marginalized genders. But both the autistic community and the LGBTQ plus community are outside of the norm. And in turn, both experience oppression and isolation. Both.
Yeah. I mean, it's not even going to say that, you know, I was going to add there is a pretty strong crossover just generally between being LGBTQ plus, I can't remember the full acronym, but there's a strong crossover. And that doesn't just mean, you know, that I think I missed out the A, you know. You have asexual, you have people who are bisexual, homosexual, you have a lot of people who are heterosexual, but there just seemed to be a correlation in the research between the two. That's for sure. This is like spiked haterade. I mean, that person was, I mean, it's in line with a lot of the comments they're making, so I didn't feel the need to point it out, but yeah, like, they didn't seem to be in a very busy place in Pride. I've been to Pride a few times. I'm not one for just standing in the crowds for ages. Like, obviously, like, if you're going to go and you're a content creator, you're going to make a video, but, like, you don't see the rest of their day. Like, it could be very, very overwhelming for them and they just haven't shown it. Or they could have taken a bunch of breaks and they could have just stayed on the outskirts, you know? It's, yeah, the haterade. I like that one. What did you say? Spiked haterade. I love that. Haterade.
Both groups are at a higher risk for things like abuse, violence, depression, and suicide. Both groups are often denied autonomy and healthcare. Because of all of this, both groups need to be given the same support. The exclusion...
I don't specifically agree with that. I think it's going to vary, obviously. Like, a lot of the inclusion work is going to vary, but there's no denying the crossovers between the two, that's for sure. What is the purpose of Minecraft in this video? Help viewer engagement, I guess.
Inclusion of autistic people and LGBTQ plus people in each other's communities is ironic because both the autistic community and the LGBTQ plus community promote diverse identities, yet they're not intersectional. If you're LGBTQ plus and fear being associated with or an ally to autistic people, it's because of your ableism. If you're autistic and fear being associated with or an ally to LGBTQ plus people, it's because of your homophobia and or transphobia. You must address these things before claiming to be a supporter of your own community.
So she says autistic people can use it as an excuse to be a bigot, which I'm sure happens in rare instances, but this kind of irritates me. Pretty retarded take. For someone who's such an advocate, they seem to be willing to forget such basic things that people on the spectrum may have a difficult time comprehending certain subjects, not willing to change. I feel like people who get angry over this are the same people who advocate for awareness and completely miss what having it is like and get mad when people who are actually diagnosed have their own thoughts and opinions. Not everyone is going to be a great person either. People are going to be bad, unfortunately. It's not...
Yeah, I mean, I think that's I mean, amongst the flurry of words, I think I can agree that autism doesn't inherently make you good or bad. That is for sure. I also reject to a certain degree the idea that we're so black and white and we can't change our opinions and thoughts over time. I don't think that's right, especially in adulthood.
It's not being a bigot if you grow up your whole life believing something or not aware of something and then suddenly a brand new ideology is shoved into your face and you feel confused. I feel like that's normal. If you are instantly hostile and not kind, no one, even the average person, is not gonna want to change. I agree to some extent people may use it as an excuse.
Well, most autistic people, like a lot of people, they don't want to go get a diagnosis. They don't want to self-identify. They don't want to learn about autism because they just don't want to, you know. And some people do, you know. Usually people if they haven't been diagnosed, they usually hit some period of crisis. And so they try and seek the answer to why they may be in this crisis. And sometimes they're autistic and they find autism, you know, just as with someone who has become depressed has found what depression is like. That's just how it goes. Hunting with Bones says, like, I disagree and agree with this person at the same time. What do you mean? The video narration is highly deficit based. Yeah, I mean, it's coming completely from the pathology paradigm, isn't it? There's no aspects of like the neurodiversity paradigm and what they're talking about. I mean, it's the same thing as usual, that whole thing of you're making real autistic people feel bad. You are like, you are being disrespectful to real autistic people. How do you know? What do you mean? Like, I'm sure some autistic people watching this would probably be in agreement, but you know, you can't speak for everybody. I'm sitting at 95% disagree. Yeah, I mean, look, I can agree with the fact that some people will fake autism. I can agree with the fact that some people may think that they are autistic and they're not. I just disagree with like the large majority of it. I just don't think it's kind of assuming bad intentions and trying to construct a narrative based on someone that you would characterize as faking or gaming people on social media for views and attention, which I think if you're going to do that, there are much more efficient ways of doing that other than telling people that you're autistic and trying to act autistic. But
she just leaves this out. Just being the LGBT community and autistic community is out of the norm, but that doesn't mean they're the same. Both groups
I agree
can
with
be
that.
criticized, but that doesn't make them the same. Trying to lump the two together for the sake of oppression.
No, I don't think they should lump the two together, because I mean they're completely different concepts. But I understand that they're both about inclusion and diversity and trying to sort of fix inequalities, so I get that. But I don't think they're one and the same. That's for sure. Even though there is a pretty heavy crossover.
Olympics is just ignoring each individual problem, in my opinion. No one fears being associated with the other, but I'll be damned if you try to merge the two groups. Someone's allowed to fight for their own group's rights without being labeled the other or associated with the other. It's about their specific social group, not the other. You can't even support your own damn community, I swear. I got one more video regarding this topic, and it's a little bit shorter than the last, so let's get into it.
Autistic people are more likely to be LGBTQIA+.
Yes.
But why is this? Our autistic and queer identities interact and intersect. Gender and sexuality are neurotypical societal structures. Autistic people often don't have the same relationship to gender and sexuality that allistic people do. We tend to be less influenced by societal expectations. We often don't understand social norms, so we don't have a need to follow them. And I want it to be clear, just because there is a correlation, it does not...
I don't think that you could say the majority of autistic people don't understand social norms. I think we're very aware of them within the autistic community. I mean, it's hard not to be aware of them when you're lambasted so much about not fitting into them. You kind of you become aware of them in time, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you're gonna just full-heartedly agree with them if they don't make any sense to you. I understand social norms, just can't engage with them. Yeah, I mean, it really depends. It's like, it depends what social norm you're talking about, really. Do you know what I mean? Like, I agree with the social norm of being polite, you know. Obviously, there's, like, subjectivity about what is polite and such, which I would agree with and not agree with on some things. But I generally agree with that. Being nice and kind, I think that's a good thing, depending on the situation, of course. But I don't particularly agree that we have to like some particular interests in order to be considered an adult, or do certain things to be considered an adult. You know what I mean? It's a bit different, but anyways.
does not mean that autism causes someone to be LGBTQIA+.
I'm glad she clarifies that at the end, but her implications are kind of making it...
I mean, cause is a very strong word, but there is a strong crossover, and I don't know much about the science, the LGBTQIA science. I have to admit, I'm not fully read up on it. I have heard some stuff, particularly related to autism. But perhaps they just... cause is a very strong word, isn't it? It's like implying that there's something bad about it. They correlate, maybe.
It seemed that way, at least to me. Sure, many autistic people don't follow social norms, but many try to do so because they want to fit in as well. I looked up her claim about this...
Yes, and we don't like that. That's not good for us.
likeliness, and I wasn't able to come across actual research, just unfound statistics from journalists. That it could be true, but maybe I'm interpreting what she's saying wrong, but to me it just feels like she's saying if you're outcasted and different, you are more likely to be LGBT, and I think that's a weird point and a weird...
No, if you're autistic, you're more likely to be LGBT. I think that's the point. I don't think anyone mentioned outcasted and weird.
Weird sentiment to try to prove. I know they say gender is societal, and in aspects like clothing, sure, but there are biological reasons, I would say, behind certain factors to how we act.
Yeah, it's like 50%.
The shirt is nice, I like the drip. Would have preferred something like this. A lot more zesty. I know this is just for a joke, but since I'm a basic commentary chud, I'm gonna break it down how I interpret it and take away any fun. Sorry guys. I know they're trying to make a joke that other autistic people may have found this and have been able to get help, but you should never self-diagnose yourself, especially because of a TikTok creator or a social media influencer. It feels like I'm crazy having to say this. You're supposed to go to a doctor. I think
I think maybe there is some strains of, like, what they're saying is true. You shouldn't just watch one TikTok creator and then say that you're autistic. I kind of agree with that. I think you should do, like, proper research into it. Like, understand like the medical side of it, the signs and traits and stuff, understand like the experiences, listen to a variety of different experiences. But I think that this is what a lot of these type of content creators do. They say that it's like this impulsive thing that you really like this content creator and now you're autistic as well. That's not how it goes. Like, a lot of us like to really be sure, you know, have a degree of certainty to it. And that really comes with time, education, both in the sciences and also when it comes to people's experiences too, and also self-reflection. So I guess it's a little bit of a straw man in a sense, because I don't think a lot of people do this. I think most people generally have like the ignition to try and understand in detail, because it's such an important aspect, or potential important aspect of who you are, and can open up so many doors to understanding yourself and navigating the world. TikTok, that good. It has the power to influence people long before the platform existed. Yeah. I mean, it's look, there are going to be some people who do that for sure, and they tend to be a bit younger. That is true. But to apply that as like a general rule, like I don't know what the exact proportions of people that do that are, but I would imagine that it's not particularly high, or at least if they do that, it's something that's quite sporadic, you know. Christopher says YouTube is great to hear people put into words what has only been a feeling. Yes, yeah. Some people think they're autistic but have a personality disorder. Yeah. Some people think that they have a personality disorder and they're autistic. I mean, who knows? That's why you got to do the digging. You know, I think if you're having queries about like finding and sort of if you're wondering, like you've noticed something different about yourself, I really highly recommend Dr. Megan Neff from Neurodivergent Insights. They've got an Instagram. They also have a YouTube channel called Divergent Conversations, and they do a lot of comparisons between different conditions, which can be quite helpful.
I think awareness is great and it can help people, but becoming a whole ass advocate for something you are seemingly weirdly obsessed with and make it your personality. To clarify, when I say personality, a disability or condition is going to be a part of your personality regardless, because it's who you are. But this person has created a whole channel about this, getting millions of views on this, and I'm sure they're able to monetize this.
I don't understand what the problem with that is. Why is that a bad thing? Why is someone doing work to try and help people understand autism better bad? And why is it bad that they make money for doing work? I don't understand it. Again, it's assuming bad intentions, that this was all a design, a psyop, a ploy for them to try and get as many views and monies as possible. Have you seen like how big autistic creators can get as opposed to people who just make stuff for a mainstream audience? There is a very, very large difference. This is where neuroaffirmative, in other words, a non-deficit language focus, a neuroaffirmative psychologist and psychiatrist can be very helpful to prize these things apart, for sure. Like, yeah, find someone who is specialized and preferably has a lot of both medical, psychological experience, but also a lot of lived experience, whether it's themselves, experience with other autistic people, from any degree of nature. Like, you know, that's always going to be a really, really helpful thing to do, because they'll understand it to a lot greater degree than perhaps a general psychologist might, for sure.
This,
the
not
nuances.
too sure, just my own guess. TikTok is flooded with these types of people, women who are either pretending or so high functioning that you can't even tell, so you can't tell them no, or else they'll cry ableism. And I don't mean to invalidate, but nobody will ever platform someone who is lower functioning. It's always these people who pass completely as the average person, and many people, including myself, take offense to this. You spread misinformation and claim these things are only for autistic.
I mean, ignoring the terminology, do they think that there's no high support needs individuals who have platforms? Like, I mean, it makes sense to a certain degree, because generally, like, it's not the rule. Like, there are definitely amazing speakers who have very, very high support needs. You know, they need 24/7 supervision and help with most aspects of independent living to a very high degree. Granted, there's not many of those, but it tends to be related to communication. You know, like, a lot of individuals who do have very, very high support needs are autistic, but they generally do have a host of other different conditions, particularly intellectual disabilities, which may hamper their ability to form like a career in content creation. So it makes sense that there would be more people who are able to communicate and sort of do that job unassisted, that there would be more of them, just kind of makes sense.
Autistic people, when in reality, many things like sensory issues or anxiety can apply to so many different illnesses, and it's dangerous to just label yourself under one. That's why you need to go to a doctor and a psychiatrist for a valid diagnosis.
Anxiety is not a part of autism, although it's very highly comorbid. It's around about like 40%, something like that nature. Pretty high. But it's not a part of autism. I think people are saying that it is an autistic trait. A diagnosable autistic trait. It just tends to happen for us quite a bit. Yeah, I mean, I'm reaching the tell. We've got a couple of minutes. Thank God. Okay. Problem with these videos is spend more time focusing on the gameplay. I mean, what they're saying isn't very revolutionary. I mean, it's stuff that we've heard over and over again, both in real life and through these videos.
Not a maybe from your Discord friend who has no job and runs 10 servers. Doctors go to medical school for literal years only for you to just pull this out of your ass. Crazy, man.
Happy Mother's Day. This is my mom. She's been really open to learning and supportive. So I want to share a few tips that she has for dealing with an autistic child. It's really important as a parent.
Well, here's one thing. Do you think that you'll gather more useful information by speaking to a lived experience advocate who has been experiencing and researching autism personally for a large period of their life? Or would you decide to go to a general psychologist who has gone through the training and the education to get to the place that they are, but haven't specialized in autism? Like, do you not think that you would probably get more useful information by speaking to the lived experience advocate? Like, it's an argument from authority, and I'm not saying that it isn't an accolade to someone to have a psychology degree, but you can't be placing them up on such a high pedestal. Like, you've got to see it for what it is. Like, when you're actually having a conversation about it, it's you can't just say, okay, they're a doctor, they know better than you. Like, it really depends. Like, what doctor? Like, what experience have they had? Have they done a module on autism during their degree? Have they specialized in autism? Do they have lived experience with autism? Have they done a postgrad and done research into autism from there? Do they work with people who are relatively higher support needs or lower support needs? Children, adults, it really depends for sure. And psychology degree is a very prestigious achievement, which I think needs to be noted, but it's not everything. And the world of psychology as it is not a black and white science. It's a very grey science, and there is a lot of subjectivity to it, and a lot of history of, perhaps not so well done science. There's a big history to the whole DSM and the medical system and all that, but I mean, it's a different video. I think I'm just trying to highlight the importance of just having nuance and not just speaking to authority. It's a fallacy in arguments.
Parent to accommodate your child's needs, and remember that tasks that might be easy for one person might not be easy for someone else. Make sure to support your child with whatever their special interests are. Make sure to listen and respect your child and let them to have time to process their thoughts.
Yes.
I'll address the elephant in the room. Not only does she look uncomfortable, but she's reading a script on a phone. This isn't...
She's not a TikTok. Like, what's wrong with that? The hatred is just oozing. It's palpable. It really is. They probably just haven't done videos before, and they're feeling nervous of putting their face on the internet.
This isn't an indicator of anything. I just thought it was funny, if I'll be honest.
Okay.
My conclusion: is this girl faking autism? Of course, I have no actual indicative proof if she is or isn't,
good.
But in my own...
Good. Let's leave it there. Do we stop it there? Great video. You just went back on everything. Okay, what's your opinion?
Opinion, she is. I think she is gullible and trying to do the
So you have no evidence either way or the other, but your opinion is that they are? Based on what? There must be some hate, some brewing internal conflict or hatred towards a specific person, this individual that they're talking about, or some, I just don't know. This person is not like me, therefore they are wrong.
do the right thing, but falling short. She shouldn't be speaking on behalf of autistic people, especially when she's not even diagnosed. I think some of her videos do provide good information, especially about like ADHD, and it's good to raise awareness. But it's harmful to spread the idea that you know better than a doctor. I don't like how she associates autism with LGBT, and I hate the general attitude that TikTokers have towards self-diagnosing and playing it up for the camera. There's just so much hypocrisy.
We see what they see as people advocating for self-identification, but they don't see the history behind it. They don't see the in-depth conversations and arguments that people have brought up in the past. They just see stuff from TikTok because that's what you see on TikTok. They're short videos, short vertical videos, which generally try to capture the attention of people and can, in many circumstances, be sources of controversy. Like virality is almost interlinked with something controversial. Like that's just what you're going to get from that platform. So I think like if you're going to try and gather information from TikTok, it's probably the worst place to do it. Like for evidence. Like watch a podcast with them, you know, listen, like read some of their writing. You know, something like that. It's just, TikTok's just its own thing. It's not even nuanced. No, it isn't. It's just a complete, like, this is it. They're faking it. This is bad. You're offending autistic people. No, they are not.
Hypocrisy, and it makes people who actually have this look sad. You can say whatever you want, but hey, I mean,
make me sad.
So do I. This doesn't even matter that much, but like, hey, easy views are easy views. Let me know what you guys think, how you feel. I know this is more of a controversial-ish type of video, and I'm okay with just saying my own opinions. If anyone feels differently, feel free to comment. I'm perfectly okay with reading differing views. I'd prefer it, actually. So with that, see you guys in maybe a week or two.
Well, I generally hope this person watches this video. Like, I understand, it's a very confusing world. Autism is very complex. Not everybody knows about the intricacies of both, like, the research and the medical side and the socio-political side. Like, well, all of it is important in the narrative to what we're talking about. And I think just the context of this being on TikTok and just being very small things, it just didn't. It's probably the least convincing like video I've seen. And I mean that's quite hard because a lot of these cringe like autistic people are growing, they're multiplying on TikTok kind of videos. They're generally not that informative. And they just say the same things as each other. And it's annoying. But if they didn't make videos, well, how could I react to them and help? Not help them, but perhaps correct some of the wrongful misconceptions of autism. The outro makes me wonder if they know they're making rage bait. Yeah, I mean, it is just a hateful video. It's just a hateful video. Like, they obviously don't like the person that they've talked about, or perhaps they don't like the culture, or perhaps they know somebody in their life who has recently self-ID'd or recently got diagnosed autistic and they don't agree with it, or perhaps someone's told them that they may be autistic and that they should have a look at it and they got a bit like upset about it. I have no idea what the context, what kind of thing led up to this. All I know is that it's just nonsense.